Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Hispanic Marketing with Hop Group. In just 5 minutes, this is Carolina Fernández, CEO of Hop Group. And today I want to share with you three key points that it's very important that you keep in mind when thinking about doing your Hispanic audience advertising campaigns. And it happens to me on an everyday basis. I'm talking to brands, I'm talking to marketing directors, to advertising agencies who already have their general market campaigns set up, and they have their sales and their marketing goals already set up and defined for their general market campaigns. And they start thinking about how to adapt those campaigns to reach a Hispanic audience. Now, many times what happens is, okay, so we have our communication concept and we're just going to go ahead and translate it, and that's going to work fine with Hispanics. Well, that's not exactly the way to go about it, because Hispanics have they have very specific characteristics, and they have very specific trends, and the way that they communicate. It's very important that when they see your brand's advertising campaigns, either in digital or in traditional media, that they feel connected to your message. And that's not always just a translating matter. You have to take into account a lot of the details and specific insights that Hispanics within the market that you're trying to reach have. So these three key insights are very important, and they're all related to language. So the first one is that Hispanics connect to brands that speak their language. Now, that doesn't mean that it has to be 100% in Spanish. Your messages, they don't have to be 100% in Spanish. You have to take into account, and that's why it's so important that you work with an agency or you work with a consultant who knows about the market, who understands Hispanic, so they can kind of like guide you, and they can take that general market campaign that you already have that's being successful already, and adapt it in such a way that it's going to have the same effect and the same results and the same success within Hispanics. So you understand a little bit more what I'm talking about, that it's not 100% Spanish or 100% English within a very specific younger Hispanic audience. Here's some data that's interesting. Within the Hispanic audience in the U.S., 55% of them are fully bilingual. That means that they switch from English to Spanish on an everyday basis, and they're considered fully bilingual. Now, 27% of that population, if you recall, it's about a 60 million population, 27% of them are English dominant. And usually what happens is that second, third, or fourth generation Hispanics tend to be English dominant. They use English for their social encounters within their social group of friends. They use English for their work, but they're still related. They're still very into using Spanish or understanding Spanish within their family circles, their close circles. So 27% of that population is English dominant. Now, 19% of that Hispanic population in the U.S. is currently Spanish dominant. And that tends to be the older audience. The older audience of Hispanics are still Spanish dominant. And probably people who moved from Latin American countries, they're over 45, 50 years old, and they're still Spanish dominant. But and here's the second key insight that I want to leave with you today, is that they're all bilingual to some degree. And that's very important when we're talking and we're thinking about marketing and advertising campaigns for the Hispanic audience. The fact that they're bilingual to some degree means that they will connect better to messages that are developed in such a way that sometimes they might be 100% Spanish if it's appropriate. But many times what we find out is that it's a combination. It's a combination in how you, as a brand, can express a message combining Spanish and English languages. And the third key insight that I want to share in this episode with you today is that Spanish for the Hispanic audience is the strongest tie that they have to their culture. Even English dominant speakers, They value brands, and research has shown that they value brands that speak Spanish to them. Even if they're still English dominant, they connect to those brands better. They have the second, third, and fourth generation Hispanics in the U.S. They have a very interesting ability to switch languages, and that generates within them an emotional connection to your brand or to your company that will lead to loyalty, will lead to sharing that brand message to their friends, to their colleagues, to their families. So those three key insights are very important. Remember, Hispanics connect to brands that speak their language. Second, even though they might be English dominant, they're still bilingual to some degree. All Hispanics are still bilingual to some degree, and it's their strongest tie to their culture. So if you can adapt your message from your general market advertising campaign and adapt it in such a way that it can connect to Hispanics through their language, you're going to see very, very interesting results. Again, not only in digital, but also in traditional advertising. Our 5 minutes are up today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm always open to questions. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you feel that this content might be of interest to colleagues, to people that you know, please feel free to share it. Carolina Fernández, CEO of Hop Group, with another episode of Hispanic Marketing in 5 minutes with Hop Group. Ciao.